Well now, welcome to our 30th anniversary series of interviews here at the Festival of the Sound in Parry Sound, Ontario. My name's Keith Horner. Today I'm delighted to welcome two people who need little introduction to anybody here in Parry Sound, Artistic Director James Campbell and Executive Director Margaret Boyd. Please welcome them. Jim's celebrating his 25th anniversary as Artistic Director, and Margie, she's celebrating her 20th as Executive Director. Now, if you add 20 and 25 together, that makes something called a wonderful state of mind called middle-aged. Does the festival feel as though it's entering middle age?
I think so. I now and then have to look back into some of the early minute books to find out some particular piece of information that someone needs for some reason. And if you saw those early minute books and saw the, sort of this, just the birth pangs of the organization, people learning to work together, trying to figure out what this festival is going to be, I would say we're definitely mature.
And Jim?
Looking back at some of the programs I've attempted over the years, and some of the things we did in the early days, going out and having concerts in people's homes and all over the Bay, when we were in the old gym, actually doing anything to take the focus away from the gym and to become a true festival of the sound. And of course, since the major move is when we moved in here, it was a major transition for us, and I think we really matured a lot during the 7 years we've been in here.
The festival certainly feels successful as an audience member and as someone who gets to go backstage from time to time. But how do you measure that success? I mean, what kind of barometers do you have?
Well, there have been years when we said, artistically, that was just wonderful, but my goodness, look at the bottom line. There have been years like that, but years that we still felt very good about and proud of, and I think certainly in the last number of years, the success is measured on so many different levels, and a lot of it just comes back from audiences and musicians as they respond to the things that they experience here.
Jim, what are your barometers?
We've always been a music-driven festival. We've never really been a numbers-driven festival. And it's interesting when often a new board member will come on and decide that sometimes they'll go and add up the number of people who come to each concert and say, well, look at all, this number of people came to this concert, so we should do more of that. Because it's sort of a normal standard. You know, if you're a success with numbers, you're a success. But we're a non-profit organization, and we're a music-driven organization. So the success really can't always be judged by that. It's good for morale for the board to see that people want to come. But certainly, as artistic director, that's one of the things I look at it. But attendance certainly is down the list of what I look at, and what I view is I'm viewing and judging a success or not probably, shall we say, minute by minute. Sometimes in a concert there'll be a wonderful phrase, and I'll think, wow, this is a great festival, or something. Something won't work, a door won't open, or a chair will fall down. I think, whoops, we better fix something there. But it kind of goes minute by minute to me, so it's very hard to put a finger on it. But certainly, I think the fact we've been around 30 years means that we are a success. Mm-hmm. We survived.
Indeed, yes. Well, I think the question a lot of people have come here to find out is, how does it work? How do you two people put this wonderful event, these 60-odd concerts together? Thank you, be careful. Who takes the first step? Let's use this season's festival as an example. What was the first step?
Well, I guess having said we're music-driven and we're artist-driven, I guess I usually take the first steps. Sure. And frankly, it happens differently every year. There's no real formula. There's certain things that happen, and over the years, there's certain times of year, certain things have to be done by certain dates, and it usually starts with me looking at a blank piece of paper, and that usually is quite intimidating. And I often think, can I go through this again? And then I start thinking of the year that's just passed, and often we've had a lot of good time, and I think, we can't repeat exactly. We have to look for new things. We have to balance things, and at first it seems rather daunting. But the old cliche, one step at a time, certainly applies here. And gradually, thoughts come, ideas come, and I travel around a lot and talking to musicians, and gradually something starts to take shape. But I actually couldn't really say how that happens. And sometimes the best plans you have, you work on a program, for example, for 2 months with an artist, and then they walk on stage and suddenly they decided to change it. Sometimes that can happen. So you go along with that. That's not so bad. There's usually a good reason for that. But no, it starts in my head, I suppose, and there's usually 2 festivals going. One is the one that's here, and the other one is the one that's over here. And then Margie says, "Well, okay, that's great. Let's just look at this in a practical way for a moment. Let's just see. Maybe perhaps the Vienna Philharmonic can't come this year. Maybe we don't have quite enough space for the ring cycle or something like that." And
so,
then
Margie, do you have a box
practical.
with 66 little squares in it and a budget against each one?
No, not really. I do have a budget, and I'll start with a blank sheet next week as well. It'll be an Excel spreadsheet, and it'll be called Artists Pay 2010. And we start and always looking at the numbers. But that's, as Jim said, that's only part of it. And we also look at what's worked before, what suggestions we've heard, things people that might work together and that sort of thing. Sometimes we come from 2 totally different places. This morning was an example where I'd seen the film, The Ballet Russe, and thought, I think that's the kind of thing that would really appeal to our audience. Not knowing that Jim, at the same time, was planning a concert with music inspired by the Ballet Russe. So that was this morning.
So there's telepathy going on between Ontario and Indiana during the off-season.
Now and then. Certainly my first thing each year is the grant applications. The major ones are due in the fall. People often ask, it's wonderful, you'll have a break now, there won't be much to do for a little while. But realistically, the main grant application is due on the 30th of September. And at that point, we're expected to have a calendar that we're presenting that outlines our concert by concert what we're going to be doing for the next season. So it forces us to get to work very, very quickly.
I was going to ask Jim if he's already started thinking about next season, but it's probably the season after you're thinking about.
Season after, yeah. Oh, yeah. In the head, there's things down quite a ways ahead. In fact, next season there's a lot of things. I've even talked to a number of people, and there's projects coming and ideas that pretty well have to. It's like a seed. Seed is planted and then it grows, and in fact, it kind of works. For every one concert that gets on the stage, there's probably about 9 or 10 in my head that might go, or ideas that will either work or not, or will follow different things. So a lot of it's a process of elimination, and some things fall into place very easily, and somebody calls you and gives you an idea and says they can come on that date, and you go, hooray, because it's done for you in a sense, and others it's a little more difficult birth. Yeah. So it takes a little longer.
Margie, I know that you have a very large downtown busy office in the center of Paris Sound. How many vice presidents do you have?
Well, I guess we have the vice president of finance who works just kind of an arm's length away from me, because our big summer office actually contracts into a small office at the back. We share with H&R Block, so our season is opposite to tax season, and that's one of the cost-cutting measures that we use so that the money can go to wonderful concerts instead. But really, there's 3 of us work there in the winter, and not all of us full-time through the winter, but we have been working, Alan has been looking after the finances for 21 festivals now. He and I started in the same year, but he actually started in the spring prior to a festival, and he's really the silent partner who doesn't get seen, but who each day when I come down on a day like today hands me all the checks made out for the musicians and all the bills to be paid for my approval and so on whenever he can catch me in the office. And an amazing member of the team, as well as the ones you see in front of you more often.
Yes, it's a very small operation for a large festival with 66 events? Was
66 events this year, yeah. And our average is around that. I think last year was 68, but we got a little too tired, so we dropped it to 66 this year.
Jim, are you a good administrator?
Well, I can see Carol, my wife, smiling back there. My wife is a very fine administrator. She's the family administrator. In fact, in the very early days of my tenure here, before Margie came, Carol did a lot of the administration herself. We'd put the kids to bed and go down into the basement and sort of bang out things till midnight, and on the typewriter, she'd be sending letters, and I'd be doing negotiations with many of my colleagues, which I thankfully don't have to do anymore. And very much run, really the president in those days was really also president and administrator and everything, and it just kind of happened. And then one of the great steps toward maturity, of course, was when Margie came on board, and then everything started to become more professional. So in that sense, that helps. But I would no, I'm not a very good administrator, actually.
I think it's only fair now that I should ask Margie. Margie, are you a performing musician, or do you sing?
I've worked very hard at times to play the piano. I've never suggested that I take the stage here, no.
How does the board fit into the management team? I mean, I'm impressed because I come here, and I've been coming here for many years, and I know that there's no real sort of harsh words that I've heard from one to the other, and that's pretty unique. I've been to a lot of festivals. I've traveled around and worked at a lot of festivals, and here there seems a very special relationship, and somehow the combination of artistic director, administrator, and management board, seems to click. How does the board fit into your
The board
operation?
breaks a lot of rules about how to be a board, in that it's much larger than normally would be recommended. It's up to 25 members, and it's usually 23 or 24 members. The board really takes on a lot of the work. When you talk about where are all the other vice presidents, that's where they are. And there's nothing they're not willing to do to help make the festival a success and to support Jim and myself in our more professional roles. And so it's been absolutely critical, I think, this particular model of board to the success of the festival.